Russell Wilson has been traded to the Denver Broncos. Tom Pelissero reports that there is a deal in principle to send 9-time Pro Bowl quarterback Russell Wilson to the Denver Broncos. In exchange for...
All right, back now with you on Total Access with breaking news out of Green Bay. We go straight to Tom Pelissero on the details of what's going on with Devontae Adams, who looks like the Raiders are acquiring him from the Packers. All right.
And we are back. Welcome to the Wild Wild West podcast on this Wednesday. I know, Coach, you haven't seen the whole son's beard thing.
It's different. It's a different intro.
Right?
I saw his face. He was like,
it's a look. We'll say that. For those of you who do not follow me on Twitter, I highly recommend it. I am participating in Movember for the month of November, and I am going with the full handlebar Fu Manchu look as part of my mustache growing Movember. The way I look at it is if I can grow this, then I'm going to, just because I can. So
we need that Waylon Jennings song.
Sorry, what?
We need that Waylon Jennings song going right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Please bend down. 18 we don't do what they say it can be done. There it is. Got a long way to go and a short time to get there. I'm eastbound down. Rock on, bandit, run.
All right, Cap.
All right.
Cap.
If it's in my range, I can sing well.
You can. And ladies and gentlemen,
you want to hear about it.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you do actually want to help out the cause, I did post the link on my Twitter, and I really would appreciate anything you can. It's really, really yes, that's right, Lafayette. Denver won, and I decided to shave. We will now hold on.
Do it.
Hold on. I just want to make sure I jump into this. We have a bye week coming up, and so I'm slightly less concerned that it's going to have a negative impact as a result. Captain, how are you today?
Yeah, as soon as I take a gulp, I
thought that was good, right?
Right in.
He's like,
that is so effing inconsiderate, and you planned it. You planned
Come on, it was great.
Yeah, of course it was.
Perfect timing.
I will say this. I had a wonderful time in Nolans with everybody, the crew, with the New Orleans fans, with everybody there. It was fantastic. Aside from the 3-hour ass whooping that I had to witness from the front row in the end zone. Okay. And it was so bad that they had a CBS camera that was like right down next to us, and he panned to us, and he didn't even, it's like he was ready to go on, but it's like this would not have been made for good TV.
It might have been.
So no, they didn't put us on. But and the other bad thing is that Hollywood, who's the guy I always go with, and Loretta, and Oso, who is the guy who was sitting next to me, they got on like one of the fan sites for Raider fans there. I unfortunately was trying to find a club with free drinks and free food that was impossible to find. So I was late to my seat. So because I was late to my seat, I missed the picture, or I would have been another wonderful picture for another wonderful weekend, at least photographer wise. So it was a lose-lose, but what can you say?
Yeah, I felt that a little bit of that beating myself because that Derek Carr is my bye-week quarterback, and he gave me 1 point.
Ooh.
Hey, you got a whole point.
Hey,
a whole 1 point.
I almost went with Derek Carr and Daniel Jones. Both I missed out on. Went Kirk Cousins. So.
Oh, there you go. I should have gone Justin Fields. Justin Fields had a great day. Didn't think that was going to happen. Me having faith in Derek Carr, I guess that's my fault.
It is.
Yes,
well,
I'll live with it.
The effing club.
Yeah.
I was like, welcome to the Raiders fandom.
There you go.
And Alex, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Just powering through the week here. Ready for
coming off the bye.
Yeah.
Coming off the bye.
And kind of uneventful / eventful trade deadline. It didn't go the direction I hoped. But, ready for Sunday Night Football.
And, Coach, coming fresh off your Tuesday night show with Coach Kurt, how are you today?
Yeah, doing great show-wise, not doing great fantasy-wise or, I guess you can just say fantasy-wise and pick-em league-wise because the Bungles screwed me out of money on Monday night. Had that in the bag. All they had to do was win, and they couldn't seem to do that. So, outside of that, I'm doing pretty good.
Fantastic. So we have an interesting show for you guys today. Lots of stuff packed in here. We of course have our 3-point stance coming up with all three of the
not one, not two, but three.
Three.
That's right. With 3 games coming up this week, so we have all 3 of our divisional opponents coming up, where we can delve right into what those games are going to look like. And I will say, super happy with the guests we brought in this week in terms of the information, including the Falcons guy who is from Locked On Falcons. Gave some super great information. So that'll be a great segment to jump into. But before we go into the week ahead, we're going to discuss a little bit in terms of last week in terms of what happened. Captain, you kind of hinted at your enthused excitement for just how wonderful that front row seat was. I figured that you may want to glaze over the rest of the game, but I am curious in terms of what you had to say.
No, I'll give it to you straight and honest, man. You know that. And by the way, I was almost a little bit later than I was later, but it's like I said, if I'm like extra late at all, I said I would never hear the end of it from you 3 fools, as well as any of the other folks out there. Like, oh yeah, he didn't want to show up after that. I would never.
Like he said, as long as you're here before Tito, you're on time.
There you
I
go.
was here before Tito and Coach. I'm Dominic.
Tito's not even here.
Right. He's still late. He's really late.
Yeah, but I would never miss something. If I miss a show, there's a damn good reason why, because that's just the way I am. But no,
Amen.
there's no way that I can gloss over the horrific game that I saw. And I don't recall ever seeing a skunking. I mean, live. I mean, I remember the last time the Raiders got their ass whooped was when they went to St. Louis. That's how long ago it was. When they went to St. Louis and the Rams beat them 52-0. And that was so horrible that, it was right after they had the Ferguson riots and things like that. So everybody was kind of really amped up for that game. And it was just like the whole nastiness of what was going on just permeated into the Rams field and locker room and stands. And it was just horrible. It was horrible. Remember why? But I watched that on TV. I never have seen a live performance that was as awful as what I witnessed firsthand. I mean, it was there was nothing to be happy about. Even when I was standing up taking pictures with people, as well, and they were saying, like, "Hey, sit down, we can't see." I said, "Hey, I'll tell you what's going on. If the Saints have the ball, it's a good play. And if the Raiders have the ball, they effed up. Shut up. I'm broadcasting, and my back is to the effing field. Get off my case." So I was like, I was saying it in less of a.
I feel like it was less civil than that.
I was civil, but I mean, you could tell I was like having fun with them at that. But that's what. And actually, the one time I did that, the Raiders stopped them. I was like, and I don't know what happened, but I turned around. And I'm like, what? They didn't score? So it was amazing. But yeah, you see 7-0, then 10, then 17, and it was awful. I will say this, and I'm not trying to placate anybody as well, but the fact that they said the Raiders never crossed midfield until Stidham came in the last portion of the fourth quarter, that's not entirely true. Because
it's not entirely false, though, either, is it?
I'm sorry, what?
It's not entirely false either, though, is it?
I'm going to do this again to you there. Hey, Coach, you're already one behind, Coach. I did that in pregame.
Damn it. Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad I missed it. I'm glad I missed
it. And I swear, Devontae Adams had a catch. That was a catch, people. That was a catch. I defy anybody to tell me otherwise. It was a catch. That would have been beyond the 50-yard line, and that whole stat would have went out the window. Plus, the one catch and drop that Mac Hollins had from a very well-thrown car ball, a little high, but when it hits you in the hands, you catch the ball. That also was on the other side of the 50-yard line. So, yes, technically, they didn't go beyond the 50-yard line for the game, but like I said, that was a Devontae Adams catch. It was horrific to see that the officials blow that. They blew worse than the chicks on Bourbon Street at 2:00. Okay, that was a horrible call. Okay, but that's the way it is. But other than that, no running game. Carr throwing into triple coverage for the interception was horrific. And, Crosby was held all game. In fact, I think that they said that Ramczyk, who was the right tackle, held Crosby to, I think, nothing. I don't think he had a pressure. I don't think he definitely didn't have a sack. He was held, but, statistically wise, he didn't have – I think he had 0 stats for the first time in 2 seasons or whatever. So it was, it was hard to see, but I stayed the entire game, as I always do. I never walk out of a stadium before the end of the game, and that's just the way I am. And by the way, for my shipmate there from Kansas City, I don't know whether you can see that or not, but that I am touting the Kansas City Raider Nation, so I wanted to make sure that I got them on camera as well. There are Raider fans in Kansas City.
I went to this wing place here. I'm in Springfield, Missouri, so like the Ozarks, 2.5 hours south of KC. I go into this wing place across town, and it somehow happens to be a Raiders Nation hub because every TV was the Raiders game. Everyone's wearing Raiders stuff. I'm like, hey, can we put a Chiefs game on? They're like, yeah, we got it on that one. There's like the small TV
in the corner.
In the corner, it's a little black and white.
Yeah, their beer towers. I was like, what the hell is going on here? Stepped into a time portal or something.
I wanted to address Michael Guerrero's comment here. I really appreciate the previous one that was brought up in terms of Carlos's comment here, which was with regards to the podcast and wanting, thinking we should have kind of more viewers and more participation. I really appreciate the comment.
I agree.
Here. And I agree too. That by all accounts, we cover all things AFC West, and we do a pretty good job, in my opinion, of kind of covering the entire spectrum and being. Obviously, we're fans of our own teams, but we do our best to kind of step back and be civil with one another. And aside from the nose
Boogers in your
scratching,
nose.
and
that,
aside from that, from time to time, we're pretty good. But if you really
Hey,
want,
I didn't turn around and ask you a question yet either, so we haven't had that in a while.
We're still a lot of show
only
left.
15 minutes in.
Still a
so-
lot of show left.
we're in early days
Hey,
here.
I'm just warming up.
yeah.
just like a Pacino in Son of a Woman, you know.
Mm.
And you and Tommy and Billy and Bobby, up you too. You know, there you go. So,
and we have had our obligatory movie quote for the show already.
Yeah,
as
gotta have at
well,
least one.
Which
It's not a podcast without at least one.
We have
Capt
not
always
had a
dates
show
himself,
yet with at
though.
least one movie quote in it. There's some fun trivia for you. But Carlos, I appreciate it. If you would like more Raiders fans in here, as I know I believe where you're coming from, Captain Jack's channel, go ahead and copy the YouTube link there from Captain's channel or from all of our channels and share that over on Twitter and Facebook to try and get more folks in here, just like you, from the fans of your respective teams. We welcome all of you in here, and we can start having some really, really great dialogue about all the different teams and all the games coming up. So thank you very much again. I'm not going to disagree with you, Captain. I think that as a Raiders fan, you have to be pretty disappointed with what you saw on the field. I did see some interesting commentary on the Raiders, and I wanted kind of your feedback on it for the show. And this is interesting to me. When Josh McDaniels came into Denver, he basically cleaned house in terms of people that he did not feel fit the type of system that he wanted to run. Mm-hmm. I did not see McDaniels have the same type of power with the new GM that you guys have in the guy from New England there.
You're talking about Dave Ziegler, his ship.
Ziegler, yeah. So then the question is this. Basically, he wants to run his system, and he's going to run it come hell or high water because he knows it works. Mm-hmm. Do you think that Ziegler has held McDaniels back, or do you think McDaniels is simply just doing the team a disservice by not adapting his offense more to the players that are on the roster?
I think it's more the latter. That McDaniels is running his system come hell or high water, and oh, by the way, just wait. Because he cleaned house a little bit before he came in there. There were people that were going to fit the system and the people that were not going to fit the system. And those guys are gone already. But there's still this season. And the question remains, okay? And this is the question. Either McDaniels or Carr are going to go. One of those guys is going to be gone at the end of the season. The big question is who? Because if you listen to Mark Davis, you know, McDaniels is there for at least the next couple years. But then again, he has a second, woodshed meeting with McDaniel after the show. Sorry, I'm thinking about the show, Richie. Okay, after the game. So it's the second taking him to the woodshed type of stuff. So it and then he says, no, he's going to be here for a bit. But as I've said many, many times, okay, this was a 1-year prove-it deal for Carr where they can walk away from Derek Carr and they'd have to eat $5 million, which is really nothing in comparison. You know, you eat $5 million, that's really nothing, okay? But I firmly believe that I think it's going to be Derek Carr being let go or them not re-upping that contract or saying walk away from the contract. Now, I can also see them saying, we're going to get out of this contract. We're going to cut you. And Carr has always stated that he just wants to be a Raider. And they might say, okay, well, this contract is done. We might write you up another one because they can do that. And then say, okay, we'll give you 1 year, whatever, but we're bringing in whoever we want. The Raiders right now are looking at it could be a top 5 pick. As horrendous as what they're playing. So there are plenty of arms available. What the thing that really just frightens the living piss out of me. And I'm sorry, I'd show you, but my pants are wet because it really did frighten the piss out of me. Is that they make another horrendous decision at a quarterback. The last time they had that option, they picked Jabustus Russell, and You guys all know how that turned out.
Well, yeah.
Just to get a tummy
That
ache.
dude was too addicted to codeine and Cheesecake Factory, though. I mean,
I'm sorry, what was that?
Jamarcus Russell is addicted to codeine.
Yeah, well, that's another 12 stories that I have. But again, I really firmly believe that they signed Carr to that contract to get Adams. They got Adams long term. They're not letting him go because he is the best receiver in football. He's just not showing it. They got Renfro under contract. They got Waller under contract, who's not making his money. So there might be some options there. They picked up Crosby, who has been wonderful this year, aside from the last game. So they got the impetus of the players that they are trying to get. But they're going to clean house more, and they're going to bring in more guys. It's going to be, if McDaniels and Ziegler stay, and I think right now that's what we're looking at, it's going to take another year, and it's going to take another year after that. But they're going to do things their way, the New England way, the Patriot way, the new Raiders way. That's the way it's going to be.
I think Mike has an interesting. I don't want to pull the comment up because I'm trying to keep the show as close to family friendly as possible. But I think it's not far off, Mike.
That's what I think they're going to do.
I don't think it's far off. I could see, although the problem the Raiders have is that this is the year where they really had to do that in 2022, and they didn't. They didn't bring in another guy behind Carr aside from Stidham. So unless they actually feel that Stidham is that guy who's going to sit behind Carr, then I think that they're kind of behind between a rock and a hard place, because what they should have done is they should have given Carr 2 years and then put the break in the contract. And what they did instead is they gave it after 1 year, which is at the end of the 2022 season, this year. And then they have, $5 million dead money is nothing for a quarterback contract. And so $5 million is an eat it and go. But the problem is that, to your point, Mike, they'd be better off keeping Carr, having a young quarterback behind him, and then cutting Carr in the second year. But I bet you Carr probably fought for the 1 year clean break to say, if you're going to get rid of me, then get rid of me and make your mind up so I can move on and go elsewhere.
But I firmly believe that Carr saying that he wants to be a Raider and only a Raider, I'm sorry. We'll see if that actually happens, because the guy is going to spend money or spend time with his ministry. That's where he really wants to do, and he might get a start on it a lot sooner than he thought. Because like I said, if the Raiders want to do that, and I firmly believe they will, they might say, okay, we're gonna just jack the rest out. We'll eat 5. We'll give you a new contract. But it's going to be a 1 year deal. It's going to be a 1 year deal, or a 2 year deal where one's guaranteed and the other one is not. Because I think that they still want him to leave, but they don't want that horrendous contract at the end. And I firmly believe that's why they did it the way they did.
I'm confused though, because I'm feeling like the Derek Carr, Devontae Adams connection was a selling point. To get Devontae there. So
it was.
Obviously not working though.
Right, but shouldn't they be tied together? Like, because if Devontae had the inclination to thinking that Derek won't go be there long term, why would he sign there? Because that's basically what he left Green Bay for.
Well, see, that's the thing though. They were smart enough to sign Carr first. The carrot to Devontae is, hey, we got Derek Carr in a contract for like a 5-6 year deal, right? Devontae is locked in for all of those years, okay? Devontae's locked in. Carr's not.
But wouldn't that piss Devontae off, though? Like, wouldn't he? He wants Derek to be his quarterback.
Sure, but then they're going to say, Devontae, if you want to win in this organization, I think he really does, and that's why I said that they might give Carr like a 1 year deal to do that. But they're saying, this is where we're going. This is what our impetus is. This is my vision. Then it's going to be, this is what we got.
That might be a bad approach, because if you play hardball with Devontae, that's the reason why he left. Part of the reason why he left Green Bay.
Well, and you know what? I hate saying this, but somebody, and tell me if I'm wrong. Somebody said hey, don't be surprised if Aaron Rodgers is the Raiders quarterback next year. And I'm like, I said, somebody better check Spot Track. Somebody better check Spot Track. I don't know what his contract was with Green Bay. I don't know if he can walk after this year.
I don't think
3 years, average about $50 million a year.
Yeah, but I think you get to a point of
Rodgers actually can throw.
Yeah,
like let's put it this way: you've seen games when Green Bay did not have Aaron Rodgers. They sucked.
Well, they suck now with them. So
but in all fairness, though, the problem there, Rodgers isn't making boneheaded plays. He just can't throw to anyone who's not getting open.
Yeah, I mean that's a product of them not prioritizing getting him help.
Exactly.
Able to mask it, but now that they lost Devontae, that's clearly full force out in the open.
Right.
But I think you see kind of what the Raiders, what Cap was saying with especially if they keep not being successful record wise and are looking at a top 5 pick. I think you bring Carr because you've seen all these other teams. Chiefs kind of started it, but you see these teams pick someone in the first round early with a sort of solidified veteran already, and the intention that they don't have to force him out there, throw him to the wolves. So I think you see, Vegas to kind of take that approach if they end up picking in that spot where they keep Carr and get a CJ Stroud or Bryce Young, but not necessarily make him have to be the guy right out of the gate. Because I really think that's what messes up a lot of rookie QBs when they just go somewhere where they're forced to be productive and forced to, live up to being picked where they were, and they don't have the help to do it. Because as much as you want to, give praise to QBs and everything, football is a team sport. So, that's why I'm glad the Bears got Fields Claypool because I like him, but
I love Justin Fields, but actually he was in a bad situation, running for his life.
Yeah,
I definitely agree with that.
Kind of is, but honestly, I mean, you don't even know if Mahomes is the same type of guy if he goes to a Jacksonville. Where you land, you don't know. I mean, you don't know if Herbert's the same type of player if he goes into a more unstable situation. Trevor Lawrence could be up in the realm of Mahomes and Herbert if he goes to KC. I mean, it's just
no, he's not.
Maybe.
We would never really know, but
it's a lot of really dependent.
But it does. I agree with you, Alice. It does lend to the idea of your landing spot definitely helps or hinders your career early on. Definitely does.
Well, 100%. I'm not saying that that's not the case, but my point is that Mahomes had a good situation and then elevated both him and his team within that situation, right? Herbert went to a decent
force to play.
Yeah, exactly. Herbert went to a decent situation with the Chargers and excelled, right? Now, what my point is that, you have Lawrence, for example, who went to a subpar situation, but then Jacksonville has pumped in a good, their offensive line is good.
Mm-hmm.
And he is still making stupid decisions.
Ooh, yes. That's how you know we've made it.
We have bots, baby.
Yeah.
I was watching the Bolt Bros and that came up, something like that came up, and they're like, that's how you know you've made it.
Right.
Somebody got to it before Jack Kenna got it for me. Thanks. Hey, Jack, next time report them before you destroy them.
There you go.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. Wow. Okay. That's a good one.
Hey, you talk about a bot, baby. I got something for you bots right down here.
Oh, okay? Lord.
We're back.
Yeah, exactly.
There's an Austin Powers quote in there, machine gun jubblies. that came to mind when you're So
golden wedding tackle.
So it's you have to throw in the movie quote because I think that was pretty fitting given the circumstances. But obviously the Chargers and the Chiefs, you guys had your bye week. I did want to get into a little bit in terms of the Broncos versus Jags game in terms of what came of it. You all know that I have been harsh, maybe, in terms of our offensive center. I hate to see him go down with an injury, but nonetheless, we did in fact see Graham Glasgow finally get put in at the center position. And all of a sudden, the Broncos can finally pass protect and run block again. So I did want to kind of bring that up and just the fact that as a Broncos fan, looking at what we saw in that game, it was clear to me that Graham Glasgow was always the right choice for the offensive center. That was also true when he was in Detroit. He was a well above average offensive center when he was in Detroit. And then the Broncos brought him in and just said, we're not going to play you at the position that you are better at. We are going to put you at guard and watch you struggle. So it makes no sense whatsoever. It's ridiculous. Literally, it's ridiculous. So my point all along has been that we should have played Graham Glasgow at the offensive center position, and it did work. We also saw some better run plays with him there, and we saw some big plays. We saw KJ Hamler with another big catch. We saw Greg Dulcich, who is turning out to be one heck of a third-round pick at tight end.
Here we go. We're off the Saubert train. On to Dulcich.
No.
Hey, how many targets Saubert been getting since Dulcich come on?
Well, that's actually what I brought up on Twitter the other day, which is I actually think that we're still playing our tight ends incorrectly. I think that the Denver Broncos are kind of showing their hand a little bit too much in terms of how they're lining up their tight ends. And I think that with our offensive line having so many injuries on it, that we should be playing 12 personnel sets more with a tight end to the outside of the left tackle and a tight end to the outside of the right tackle. And in my opinion, it should be Dulcich on one side and Saubert on the other. And then you simply mix them up in terms of who's running the pass route and who's blocking. And I think that that's the better way of going about it, because you're constantly keeping the other team guessing in terms of who's going to be running, who's going to be blocking, what side you're running the ball on, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that that makes for a much better and far more unpredictable offense. And you have two great pass-catching tight ends. I mean, Saubert ran all the way downfield and caught a deep pass in the end zone for that touchdown. So why not? Tito.
You're late!
Tito!
I am stopping my bit to simply say you're late.
Big time. Like
Super
36
late,
minutes
Tito.
late.
Like as in, come on.
Late.
Hey, that ain't fashionable. That's just late.
You might as well just not comment, Tito. Just kind of stayed in the weeds.
No, that's why Tito's late. He's in the weed.
Oh, okay. Each his own.
Yeah.
So that was the Broncos. I also think we found a great pickup in Murray at the running back position. I think he's really shown that.
And Edmonds, maybe.
And we'll see what Edmonds does in week 10.
You got him on fantasy. I see what that's about.
Oh, I made a big investment in Chase Edmonds, and that it's not been too good for me. So,
well, I think that the Broncos are likely going to commit to him more because he's going to replace what we had in Mike Boone. So I think you might see him used more and probably get more touches and that kind of stuff.
Hope so.
So, anyways, that's overall, I think the Broncos had a decent game. We also saw some hurry up on offense. We already called that out, Mike. I think Tito's well aware. I think he's well aware.
He knows he's late.
Just needed to be pushed on the ground.
Yeah. So we saw.
He said, "I thought it was Tuesday."
Lay off the weed.
Lay off the weed, man.
How do the Broncos feel about losing their Chubb?
Wow, that could go a lot of ways.
We're already at 3-5,
Jacob,
so I think the Chubb went away a little while ago.
Perfectly worded question I had. Yeah.
The cold water was already poured over to kind of cool that that whole hot mess down. But ultimately, I actually think it was a good trade, to be quite honest. So if we're going to go right into kind of the offseason or the trades come the deadline, I mean, obviously, I think the biggest one in the AFC West was the Broncos trading away Bradley Chubb, from what I remember seeing. So, I mean, that's a huge loss, obviously, for the Broncos. A few things that a lot of people aren't considering is we drafted Nick Bedino in the second round, who is winning percentage, is playing better than Chubb in terms of his percentage versus snaps. So I think that's a big deal. We also have Jonathan Cooper, who is doing very well. We also have Randy Gregory, who was killing it when he was healthy. He's due to come back in relatively short order as well. And also Baron Browning was finally showing out in his last 2 games when he was healthy. He's due back after our bye week in week 10 as well. So we simply have quite a bit of depth at the outside linebacker position, all of which are playing quite well and all of which have multiple sacks on the season. In addition to that, a lot of other fans who don't follow the Broncos forget that we also have Christopher Allen. And he was brought in as a UDFA who was actually slated at one point to be a second or third round pick at the very, very back end of that draft. And he went undrafted due to his injury, and the Broncos picked him up. So we have an embarrassment of riches, at the outside linebacker position now. And so we were either going to pay Draymond Jones or we were going to pay Bradley Chubb. And I think the Broncos have made a commitment to pay Draymond Jones instead.
Yeah. Well, Draymond Jones would be cheaper, right? I mean,
yes,
it's a great scheme. And like I have a couple buddies that are Broncos fans. They all kind of said the same thing. I mean, from a longevity standpoint, it is a move you had to make because you're not going to pay him. You can't really afford to pay both of them. And you might as well get a first-round pick, get back into the first round.
Yep.
I mean, it's kind of a win-win. Plus he's a pretty – I mean, for as good as he is, he's pretty injury-prone. I mean, I don't think he's played a full season since his rookie year, has he?
No,
So,
he hasn't.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big long-term investment for, someone that unfortunately might not be able to pan out for the full length of that too.
I mean, he was really having a great season. He really was. But at the end of the day, you're 100% correct. We gave away 2 firsts for Russell Wilson and 2 seconds. We've now regained back one of those firsts that we lost, and we gave up a player that we were not planning to pay anyway.
Yeah. And got a running back when you're, at least hurting to some degree or needing that to kind of equal it out. Like, I thought it was a pretty good trade for him.
No, I think it was. I think given what the Broncos had already decided, basically as soon as you draft Benito in that second round, Bradley Chubb was on his way out the door.
And signed Gregory, right?
Signing Gregory. Like you signed Gregory to the contract extension that you would have otherwise likely offered Chubb, right?
Yeah.
So, at the end of the day, you basically said, we're going with Gregory over Chubb, and therefore you trade Bradley Chubb, when it makes sense to do so. And he just happened to have one heck of a season, which made a first-round pick, come into the equation just because he was just playing that well.
Yeah.
And so that doesn't surprise me that we got what we got for him. And then we also got we swapped a 4th and a 5th in the future as part of that trade as well. So overall, I think we did quite well given circumstances. And, you just go from there.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean,
so Coach, what did the Chargers do in the trade deadline?
Not a damn thing. You already know that.
I know. That's why I asked.
Crazy.
Yeah,
I will say though.
Yeah. I don't. Well, I can't say I completely understand it based upon the circumstances of the wide receiver room. But I definitely think that they could have made some type of attempt to bring in especially with Claypool and guys of that ilk hanging out there to help, because I honestly think that if you're looking at it from a wide angle lens, Keenan Allen's still not healthy. He had a setback in the bye week with his hamstring. He may not play at all this year. I mean, that's a possibility. I mean, hamstring injuries are very iffy, and he's already been on record as saying that at this point, until he's 100%, he feels 100%. Kind of give me the Kawhi Leonard vibe at this moment. Where he's not going to play. until he's 100% healthy, that's going to be a detriment to the actual production of the offense, obviously, without not having your number one receiver. Mike Williams being out with a high ankle sprain, we're talking 4 to 6 weeks, probably at least 4 weeks from right now, and we got a game to play on Sunday. So you missing your top 2 receivers, so you don't make a play to salvage the season in a sense, or salvage the offense in any regard. I mean, pick up a tight end, pick up a receivers, do something. I mean, if you look at the wide receiver room as it is right now, it stands at Josh Palmer, who's been inconsistent, Michael Bandy, DeAndre Carter, who was brought in to be a kick returner. He's playing receiver. Keelan Doss, who was a cast off from the Raiders and other different training camps. He's never actually played an NFL game, I don't think. And a few others, and the guys you probably know, names you don't even know. So I would have been more aggressive. I mean, especially with the draft coming up. I mean, if you were going to stat pat and try to draft a receiver last year's draft class, it makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. You kind of hold pat and hold your draft picks, hold your water, right, and just deal with the injuries as they come. But with the receiving class being this year not being as touted as last year's class, why sit on your hands and not do anything? That's my take on it. I feel like you should have at least done something, because the Chiefs got Kadarius Toney. He was an option. Elijah Moore was out there. I don't know what the price tag was, but it should have been the one, the second-round pick. He's a second-round pick being drafted. So the Jets can't honestly say that they can ask for anything above that, to get him in trade.
Well, they can.
Well, that means they just don't want to trade him, because nobody's going to offer you anything higher than he was drafted at. I mean, come on. That's just nonsense. So I would say that, they may have kicked the tires and things, nothing panned out, but I don't think they were truly aggressive based upon what they have in house. But everybody just injured. They're just living with the idea of them being injured and not, worrying about living in the moment and worrying about the moment and realizing that the season is not lost if you do the right thing. So I think they should have been more aggressive in free agency, get some type of weapon. Something to kind of keep the ship afloat until these guys hopefully come back healthy. But we sat on our hands, did nothing, and I don't know what the game's going to look like on Sunday. I really don't, because Atlanta might have gave the game away last Sunday, but they teams like that tend to play well against us. So not having a dominant weapon that Herbert's going to have to be able to utilize, I'm not sure what the offense is going to look like. To be quite honest with you, I'm very curious, but. I'm a little disappointed, to say the least, that their lack of ability to go out and get anything that's going to help this team. Because if you look at it like this, every quarterback in the age range of Justin Herbert, they've done everything possible they can to put as much as possible from a weaponry perspective around them to make them flourish. And the Chargers aren't doing that, so they're not following everybody's playbook. And everybody else seems to be winning. I mean, hell, Tua Tagovailoa, they crowning him like is the next, whoever, because he has all these weapons. So again, I don't get it. But that's typical Chargers fashion. Like, they just don't ever do anything at the moment where it's needed. They kind of do things at their own pace, and it hadn't honestly truly panned out. So maybe somebody will wake up this front office at some point. But for right now, it's the status quo.
So the one big thing that's come up, I've spoken to the Bolt Bros about this. I've spoken to other Chargers fans about this. And as an AFC West rival, the turf that you guys have in your stadium right now, I believe is contributing to injuries both on your team and others. So my question, as a broad one, is, should we all start a GoFundMe between the other 3 AFC West teams to help your owners out and realize that grass is better than turf?
Well, they should do that across the league. It ain't just that particular arena. They need to do that across the league. Yeah. Kind of do what Arizona does. It's a dome, right? And our stadium is not a dome, but it's covered. Get that natural grass that you can roll out into the sun and every so often.
Does that too, don't they?
And let it get natural light. That type of deal.
I seem to know of another AFC West team that does that too, Coach.
Who?
The Raiders.
Oh, the Raiders do that? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know Alicia had that. Alicia has that? Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, smart on them.
Wouldn't the decision for the Charger Stadium have to come from the Rams, though?
Well, it has to be a collective decision, obviously.
The Chargers ain't gonna do nothing because their ownership is more frugal than 3 Jewish guys in a desert looking for a dime.
I mean, I can't argue that. I mean, as it is what it is.
And I'm allowed to say that. My name's Levy.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, they're picking their spots. I mean, they've historically been frugal and they didn't want to spend money, air quote, or the GM just wasn't aggressive enough, you know. And I think it's a combination of things. Like, you know, you get an aggressive GM like Tom Telesco, and you get aggressive coach like Brandon Staley, and they went out and made moves. It's the, you know, that's what made everybody so excited about this year, is that they finally were aggressive in free agency. They drafted well. They did great in free agency. Everything seemed to be lining up well. You know, but in, you know, typical one thing's always been Achilles heel, pun intended, that injuries always bite us. But no, I think that what got
That's
people
what my
kind of
comment was there.
reinvigorated. Yeah, it got people reinvigorated because for the first time in a long time, if ever, they were aggressive and doing things that were trending. You know, being aggressive in free agency, fixing your problems, getting people in that are, you know, are well known household names that's going to come in and be playmakers for us. But you know, I don't know. I mean, hope it's not an outlier, but yet again, you know, holistically over the lifespan, I've been a Chargers fan. You know, we've been conservative. So Cap has a point. He does have a point there.
My ultimate point was that the Chargers have had injury history like this for decades,
several years,
decades, right?
Yeah.
And this dates all the way back deep into your history in San Diego, and now has carried on into your new stadium here in LA. The one common point that you guys both have in both stadiums is you both played on turf.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems that a lot of the teams that typically play on turf tend to have soft tissue and other injuries that are more prevalent than those teams that play on grass. So I simply looked at it and said, hey, if your team is in fact that cheap, you'd think that you'd not want to have your players get injured when they don't need to. And you'd simply look at a grass option to hopefully negate and reduce those injuries overall, especially if it pays off in the long run. Because you have to imagine that the grass just generally is more forgiving. You see most teams that play on grass just typically have fewer injuries, right?
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah, and in a perfect world or a perfect weather, you know, and it's better so suited for California because they don't have as much, you know, weather conditions in California. But you know, I've seen people get hurt just as much on grass as turf in certain spots, but you don't have you know, grass has that give though, you know, in certain spots. So when it's dry, if it's dry and it's fine, it's not wet or damaged or muddy, then it's fine. It has give to it, and you can kind of get away with those issues with turning knees and folding ankles and doing things of that nature. But you know, it's give and take to both arguments. I mean, you know, you can have like a bluegrass or a carbon blend where you have turf and grass mixed in, and that kind of works better for certain particular teams.
I stand corrected. I thought your San Diego stadium.
No, it wasn't. No,
I was going to let you know that I'm so old. I will call it by the real name. Qualcomm my ass. Jack Murphy
Stadium. Yeah, exactly.
Jack Murphy with grass, brother. Jack Murphy with grass.
Yeah, it was grass. So. Really?
So that was our recap, guys, of last week. We had two of our teams on buys, which certainly made that a little shorter than it otherwise would have been. But coming up, we got
we didn't talk about the Chiefs moves, but that's all right.
Chiefs moves. You guys are already winning, so good for you. No, I'm just joking. Right.
The Kadarius Toney thing is interesting. We were actually having a side conversation in the chat about that, about how he's going to mesh back into the offense, because I feel like they were just literally getting on the same sheet of music with Juju and Miko, and then you add Kadarius to the mix. How's that going to play?
It's not, and neither will Tony after a few games, because, like I said, how's that going to? You get that? How's that going to play? Neither, because he's not going to play. Kadarius, and again, I am a Gator, and I've seen Kadarius Toney was a more athletic Percy Harvin, but he is injury prone with a worse attitude.
Oh, yeah.
And that
is it me or is it Alex frozen? He was for a second. Okay, all right. He was frozen and smiled for a second for me. Okay.
Dude, all my screens are like black circles. I was like, "What the hell's going on?"
Okay, yeah, a little bit technical difficulties over there. Okay.
I was like, literally every screen was black. Is circle going. I was like,
hey, Tito, if that's not happening, we ain't going to win a game for the rest of the year. So screw you.
So if this is a CFL question, Lafayette, believe it or not all Canadians follow the CFL. I certainly don't. I go to a couple games every once in a while because the tickets are basically almost free. They're so cheap, it's ridiculous. And it's an interesting game to watch just because there's a few things in there that I think are really interesting. But by and large, you typically have in the big cities, the stadiums are always full just because the tickets are cheap. The beer is not, but people drink a lot of it. And it's just interesting because there are a few rules, actually, the CFL, the one thing I will give them credit for, that I actually believe the NFL should adopt, including some of the special teams rules that are really, really interesting in the CFL. Perhaps later on in the season or in the off season, I'll go into it a little bit more because I think there's a few things in there that the NFL could actually steal, including the aggressive motion that you get right at the snap, which I actually think the NFL would benefit from because it makes for a much more interesting game. But anywho,
wider too, right? Isn't it like?
The field is wider, so you have a little bit more room because Canada just has more space that is wasted with a lot of icebergs and other things. But in addition to that, the football is also larger as well, which a lot of the guys that come from the States, which is where most of the players are coming from in the CFL, throws them for a loop because it's just a different feel as a football.
Yeah.
So, but no, CFL is interesting. I live closest to the Argonauts, who have done the best out of most of the teams. But by and large, it's a league that has a cult following, and from my experience, a good portion of it is actually Americans that follow the CFL as opposed to Canadians. But moving on to the upcoming week. I wanted to jump right into Captain. I'm going to jump over to you just because we're coming up on close-ish to when you need to go to NFL Nation Live. You are playing the Jags this week, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, sir, we are, and it's simply amazing to me that after a London game that they didn't give them a what do you call it, a bye. Unless they are playing 2 London games, then I understand it. You can only do it once. But that is the only advantage that the Raiders will have this weekend is, the travel from London back. Other than that, it's a matter of the Raiders were on an upswing. Each week they were getting better and better and better up until the annihilation in Nolens. But again, they played well against the Chiefs, should have won. They played well against the Texans, annihilated, and then played four quarters worth of football. I think the Raiders misplaced their timing, as normally they lose after the bye. So I think that they figured that this was the bye, and they lost to Nolens. And when they just had it wrong in their heads, like, oh no, this was our bye weekend we were supposed to lose, so that's why, because that's what normally happens. But they just played god awful. And for those that are thinking that this is going to be a walk away or walk over, it's not.
It is not.
No,
it is not. With that in mind, Captain, I'm going to go right into JK3 from Down by the Bank podcast, who joins us again as our staple on the Wild Wild West to give us his take on the Jacksonville Jaguars versus your Las Vegas Raiders.
Got it.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is JK3 with Down by the Bank, Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Coming to you again. I feel like, I'm a frequent guest right now, on this segment. So I wanted to go ahead and give you my 3 keys of victories for the Jags against the Vegas Raiders this weekend. Number 1, got to get home against Derek Carr and the team. The defense really, kind of held it in for 3 quarters, against the Broncos. And like this Jaguars team has done, we haven't had a full 4 quarters of, clean football. So hopefully, the defense can get home against Derek Carr. We can hold Josh Jacobs and limit the big play. More specifically, limit the big play in the fourth quarter. The Jaguars, have lost every game this year by one score. And it has been coming into the fourth quarter. So hopefully, the Jags can, close out. That's going to be the number one thing, closing out in the fourth quarter. Number two thing, the bright spot, Travis Etienne, first game being the featured back, able to go ahead and, carry a lot of the load, and he looked phenomenal, coming off of 156 yards in his debut as a featured back. Let's get him more involved, continue to run the ball. Offensive line is doing great, especially against a strong Denver Broncos defense. Last week, we're able to run 156, so we hope to get another big game out of Travis Etienne and hopefully get him into the passing game as well. And my third thing, keep the ball out of Trevor Lawrence's hands in the fourth quarter. This guy, he's been clutch when it doesn't matter, but when it comes down to him having that signature moment, we need to limit the hero ball for him. So I think if we can go ahead and continue to get ahead against the Raiders earlier in the game, we can get the defense home. We can continue to run the ball with Travis Etienne, and get a lot of contribution from him. And if the fourth quarter we can go in and really do some clock management things and really kind of keep the ball and keep the pressure off Trevor Lawrence, and hopefully we can go ahead and close it out with the victory here in Jacksonville, a much needed victory here in Jacksonville. Need to build on the bright spot for the Jags, trading for Calvin Ridley today. So some things are already looking up and up for 2023, but we don't want to get there yet. We want to focus on those top three things that help the Jacksonville Jaguars beat the Las Vegas Raiders this Sunday here in Duval County, Florida. Again, I'm JK III at JK III, and you can follow and listen to me on at Down by the Bank at Jacksonville Jaguars podcast on Twitter. Nice seeing you guys. Go Jags.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm. Whoa. We blocked my guy Hefe for 5 minutes. What did he do?
Gave him a timeout. Somebody gave him a timeout.
Someone gave him a timeout. I don't know who did. It was not me.
I bet it was Cap. Somebody's on Cap.
Yes. So someone did something. But
let's just say that 5 minutes is 5 minutes is another 5 minutes is another 5 minutes. If you're going to be an asshole, it can be 5 minutes permanently.
So I just wanted to call out JK the Third has been a phenomenal guest on this show, giving insight on the Jacksonville Jags. They are actually a surprising team for me. I actually did expect them to do a little bit better than they have done this season, and sadly, their offensive line is really good. It's sneaky good, and
do they know that?
Pardon me?
Do they know it?
I don't think
they know it. I don't think they know it.
Well, no, they ran very well this past game.
Yeah, ETN.
Yes, I have ETN on my fantasy team. He definitely won me the game.
Yeah, they ran very well, and the Broncos' run defense, while it hasn't been great, has not been that bad. So I will give credit where credit's due. Their O-line played very well.
That's what I asked D-Rock when I saw him. Like, who's the stranger guy in the top left corner? Who's that guy? Still think he's a stranger, but they didn't tell me he wasn't. So I gotta let it pass.
He actually
considering I control the thing. Considering I control the things, I am no stranger. D-Rock, this is me just as I said earlier in the show, for those of you who just joined.
This is Richard.
Participating in Movember.
Right.
I am participating in Movember. This is my stash that I'm growing, which is the car guy handlebar mustache. And I have tweeted out the link for my Movember.
You are RichiRichEh right now.
What?
You're Richard. You're
RichiRichEh.
I am.
It's Richard.
Richard.
Mais oui, je m'appelle Richard from Canada. Bien aussi.
There you go.
Yeah. So French sadly is taught in schools. I wish I could forget it. Anyways, guys, I appreciate you guys joining us today. Captain, I want to throw over to you. Jags game, Raiders. Good. I think it'll be a good game. Now, what's going on?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, I think it's going to be a good game as well. I mean, the Raiders did play the Jaguars once this year. It was the very first game of the season in Canton. The Jaguar fans were pissing and moaning that it was, our first stringers. Again, I said no, we didn't play any of our first stringers on any of on that game. So I don't know what they were bitching about. The Jaguars have, like as you alluded to earlier, have a very, very good offensive line.
They do,
and they have a pretty dominant defensive line, kind of like in the old days when I can't remember the old Packers quarterback that came in and actually won some games for him. The Packers backup that
Flynn?
won some games.
Matt Flynn?
No. Older than that.
Okay.
Whatever. Anyway.
Before your time.
hey, Alex, give it up. Just shut up. Okay. There you go. Okay.
Can I block you for 5 minutes? Come on.
Yeah. No, again, I guess to go up.
That's the third one today. Damn it.
Mark Brunell, you butthole. Okay. I got it. Okay. Anyway, Mark Brunell, when Mark Brunell's, they were actually, they've twice been like 1 or 2 plays away from a Super Bowl. Once under Brunell and once under Blake Bortles, so it's amazing how they can be really good at times. And they're on the upswing. I think that, I think that the Jaguars could be the top of that division within 1 or 2 years because they are building correctly.
They are. They really are.
And, they're doing it the right way. They're building through the draft, and they're letting their players evolve and get better. I think that this Jaguars team is going to be a tough out for the Raiders. The one good thing that the Raiders did, that the Raiders stayed in the East Coast. I think they're actually down in Sarasota practicing this week, if I'm not mistaken. And the Jaguars, again, have the jet lag. I know that they're used to doing that every year because, Shad Khan brings them to a London game each year. But still, getting used to it each year, everybody's going to get used to it each year. And that's the one advantage that I think that the Raiders will have this week is that the Jags are coming off of a long flight, and the Raiders stayed in the East Coast so that they don't have to worry about that. They have, I think the teams are pretty much evenly matched. I think the Raiders have a much better offense, but they haven't showed it, at least last week. 0 points speaks volumes right there. So it'll be a game that'll be close. I think that the Raiders could get back to what was winning for them earlier, which is a consistent and overwhelming run game. And Carr doesn't throw into triple coverage like he did last week, then the Raiders could be on the winning side again. I know that they should, but will they win? And that's the question. That is the question.
So curious to the rest of the panel, what do you guys think the Raiders are going to do this week? Alex, over to you in terms of what you saw last week. And you saw the Raiders, the Jags and Broncos play.
Yeah.
Do you think that the Jags are going to outshine the Raiders this week, or do you think the Raiders are going to rebound and kind of come back and show us that they belong?
Yeah. Honestly, from watching, especially kind of high praise what Jacksonville got at the start. When they beat the Chargers, and then we were all.
Oh, you had to bring that up, didn't you?
Everyone was talking about them being good, and then they haven't won since then. But really, I've kind of noticed he referenced it in the point stance that if it comes down to Trevor Lawrence having to win, he's not mature enough to make the right choice. He'll rampant throws and turns the ball over in crucial moments late in the game. So I think that if the Raiders stick to, like Captain said, running the ball and keeping it close, making it to where Lawrence has to win at the end with his arm, I think that they win. And that's kind of been the way the Jaguars games have gone since they beat the Chargers. So you beat the Chargers pretty good too. That's just the way.
Another little dig, Coach. Just another little dig.
I was waiting to see if I got one out of Coach, but But yeah, no, I think the Raiders end up winning this if they, keep run the ball and keep it close and force Lawrence to have to win it with his arm.
Fair.
To answer your question, Matthew, yeah, Andy Reid's son is going to jail for manslaughter, or not manslaughter, but I don't remember the charge, but from his drunk driving incident, which was less than the recommended amount by the prosecution. So he still got a little bit of
got off easy.
Yeah, I mean, considering how messed up that one of the young girls got, and I know the Chiefs reached an undisclosed settlement with the family, but that it can only go so far, especially when it's someone who's kind of not a stranger to those types of proceedings. That was off topic, but I just saw the comment. So, my bad. But yeah, what do you think, Coach?
Well, I think that it really comes down to the idea of who is less reckless, who makes the ultimate mistake, maybe late in game. I think they both have good running games. I do like the Jaguars front seven a little more from their talent perspective. From the young guys they have been, they built up front. They're tough, man. Like I said, I saw them firsthand. Devin Lloyd is that guy. Definitely got my eye on as being a perennial Pro Bowl type linebacker in the future. Trayvon Walker's having a good year. Amongst a few other names, of course, Josh Allen, the other Josh Allen's what they call him.
Yeah.
So I think that it just really boils down to who's less reckless throughout the game. Like if they both stick to their guns, stick to the run game, stay basic, don't do any exotic things, then it could be a low scoring game coming down to late third, early fourth quarter. And again, it just who makes the first mistake. It might end up being that's who comes out to be the winner. Based upon how they both played in the last several games, that's typically what unravels each team. Like that one big mistake that either quarterback makes, a turnover, fumble, something like that nature. That really would cost them games. In all honesty, so that's really what it boils down to. Who makes that crucial mistake in the fourth quarter, and it's gonna probably go other teams' way.
And Captain, that'll basically come down to, in my opinion, in your game, can Crosby get home and strip sack? Or do something to Trevor to force a mistake, or because I'm not trying to belittle the Raiders here, but you do not have a secondary that is feared amongst the NFL. And so when you look at what happened to the Broncos when Lawrence tried to force a pass, he basically got shown the door.
Oh yeah,
right. He got shown the door by a superior cornerback who said, "I got you." And he did that with a cast on his one hand.
Yeah, actually, they do have a superior cornerback. Unfortunately, he's injured. And that's Hobbs. Averett came back from his injury and really didn't show too much. In fact, I called out a play. That Callaway, who's also another Gator, I said Callaway's got this. Watch. And I was talking to the Saints fan next to me, and I called the play. I said, Callaway on a post. Well, it wasn't a post, it was a slant, but it was against Averett, and they got the first down. I can just see the way that they were playing that, you got Callaway on Averett, and that's a mismatch. And the kid has speed and can actually catch when he wants to.
Antonio Callaway, right?
Marquez Callaway.
Yeah. The kid that played for the Gators, I can't remember his first name, but
Marquez Callaway.
Yeah. Very, very, very talented kid from South Florida, but very troubled. That's what I'm going to say. And if he has his stuff in one sock, it's good. But if not, then he's kind of like Tony. He doesn't get injured. Anyway, it's a matter of Hobbs is out. There's a couple of defensive backs that I was looking at. Again, the Raiders did not make any moves at the trade deadline other than getting rid of Hankins for a draft pick. We didn't acquire anybody, which was surprising. But again, it was just one of those things where, again, I guess either the price was not right, and so they didn't make any trigger moves. So it's just a matter of we'll see if that was helpful or hurtful. If they're playing for this year, not getting anybody this season will hurt them. If they're playing for the future, then maybe it was the best moves available.
Fair enough. So I want to get more of your feedback on some of the other games coming up, guys, before Captain needs to head over to NFL Nation Live, which is coming shortly after this show. Coach,
I need to address this real quick. Andrew, if this is going out via my chat, this is the Wild Wild West, where I am blessed to be with all of these people here talking about the Wild Wild AFC West. It is a great show. It's not Raider specific, but aside from assholes like Hefe, we talk to everybody in this house. Okay, so there you go. But yeah, please get your questions as well. And by the way, that's the only time I'm going to address that asshole directly. That's it.
And Andrew, you may be familiar, although I'm still on his beard. I am on Captain Jack's show fairly regularly, talking about both Raiders and Broncos. Although I won't lie, I'm fairly well versed in the Raiders in terms of what they have going for them and what they don't as well. Yeah, this is a fantastic show with great perspectives from all four divisional rivals here. I would really hope that if you have any questions, you fire them our way, and we'll go ahead and endeavor to answer them. With regards to the Chargers game coming up, Coach, you're going against the Falcons. They've been
dirty birds
up and down, whatever you want to say. They've had some interesting games this season, some interesting outcomes. And I actually think it'll be a pretty good game, actually, with the Chargers. And with that in mind, I'm going to throw over to our Falcons guest here on the 3-point stance to give his take on what the Falcons need to do to beat your Chargers.
Aaron Freeman here, the host of Locked On Falcons, your daily Atlanta Falcons podcast, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And here to talk about 3 things I think the Falcons need to do that will help their chances of beating the Los Angeles, almost said San Diego, still haven't gotten over that, Los Angeles Chargers in Week 9. I think the first thing is being able to pressure the quarterback. The Falcons have not done a great job doing so. They need a big day from Grady Jarrett. They need a big day from their rookie second-round pick, Arnold Ebiketie. And if they don't get that, then Justin Herbert should have little to no problem, as we have seen guys like Joe Burrow, Tom Brady, Matt Stafford picking apart the Falcons' defense, given their tendency to play a lot of zone coverage. I suspect the Falcons will rely on their zone coverage this weekend, because it gets us to the second thing I want to talk about, which is keeping Mike Williams in check. Falcons will likely play a lot of zone in this game, given the expectation that cornerback AJ Terrell is going to miss this week with a hamstring injury. We haven't gotten official confirmation up to this point, but it does not sound likely that he'll suit up, and therefore the Falcons will be stuck with their reserve corners, players like Cornell Armstrong, Darren Hall, D. Alford. Mike Williams is going to be a very big challenge for these corners that are on the smaller side of things, and we know Mike Williams can win in the air, so that's going to be a difficult matchup for them. And then the third day is slowing down this Chargers pass rush. I know Khalil Mack has not gotten off to the sort of start that I think Chargers fans were expecting from him. I know Joey Bosa has been dealing with some injuries, but those are 2 guys that can wreak a lot of havoc when healthy. And this Falcons offensive line has struggled this year, getting us into the third thing, blocking those guys off the edge. And if they can do that, then this Falcons passing attack, in addition to their dominant run game, which will be the focus of their game plan, then the Falcons will be able to find time to throw the football to supplement what they hope to be a dominant day on the ground against a Chargers defense that has struggled to stop the run this year. So those are the three things for me that I want to see the Falcons do. Again, recapping, getting pressure on Justin Herbert, being able to cover Mike Williams, and being able to protect Marcus Mariota from those fearsome Chargers pass rushers. If they can do those three things in addition to running the football, they will have a chance to win on Sunday against the Chargers in Week 9. Check me out every day on your preferred podcast platform, Locked On Falcons, Monday through Friday, YouTube, Apple, Odyssey, Google, Spotify, wherever you want, as well as on Twitter at FalcFans, FalcFans. This has been Aaron Freeman, host of Locked On Falcons.
So our guest there was pretty clear in just stating that Bosa has been injured or is dealing with injuries. He did not say he was, in fact, playing. So I just wanted to make sure I clarified that in terms of how he worded his response. I know everyone kind of hones in on, the name and may not pay attention as much to the comments surrounding it, but he did, in fact, call out the fact that he's been dealing with injuries as a means of calling that out. But a great guest coming from the Locked On Falcons podcast with some information on the Falcons and what they felt, or he felt, they needed to do to beat the Chargers. Captain, how do you think your Chargers are going to handle the run attack against the Falcons? Because that's really
the weed.
It's the beard, man. It's the beard.
It's the beard. It has light.
That lack of hair is throwing you off, man.
It is.
It really is.
Well, the other problem is I'm seeing these Yarg comments all throughout the chats here, and because I see all 5 chats, that's
subliminal messaging.
Yeah, it's through my brain.
This is not the team you're looking for,
man.
Right.
So, Coach,
move along. Yeah.
Coach, how do you think the run game from the Falcons is going to be quelled by the Chargers? And how do you think you guys are going to do this game?
Well, I hope Brandon Staley spent the bye week adjusting his personnel, his fronts, his alignments when it comes down to how he attacks certain formations, because to me that's been it's almost like he has a set script of how he wants to run certain things at certain times and certain people at certain times, and he doesn't deviate. He doesn't pivot from that based upon what's happening in the game, because I'm seeing different personnel being on the field at wrong times. I'm seeing people aligned wrong, or in different fronts on different circumstances, different downs that's been plaguing us. So it's not necessarily about the fact that, the defense is just flat out getting beat up front. It'd be one thing we're lining up right, we're in the right position, and we weren't making plays, but we're out of position a lot, in my opinion. So I think that if he spent time, hopefully he spent time on fixing that aspect of what's going on with our run defense, then we'd be better off. But if he has not, then it's going to be a long day. I mean, we saw a few weeks ago where Atlanta just took the ball out of Mariota's hands altogether and ran the ball like 12 times straight or something like that. Mm-hmm. So they're committed to running the ball. So if it's working, they're not going to get off the gas on it. And that's one thing that they're going to stay true to it. So if we don't stop it, we don't fix it, we don't limit it, it's going to be a heavy run game. It's probably going to be a short game because the clock's going to be constantly running, and they're going to be constantly running, and who knows what the outcome will be. And you're going to give Justin Herbert limited opportunities to run offense with his makeshift band of receivers. So, I think that's going to be the biggest sticking point to our defense as far as what we do when it comes down to defending the run. Like, you have to stop that first and foremost. I mean, don't have anybody outside of Drake London who's a receiver of interest that you really got to worry about. We'll stick Darren on Drake on Cal Pitts. We'll bracket Drake London. That's it. That's secondary. That's secondary. I want to say that you have to fix and stop the run first. You do that, make them a one-dimensional passing team, then it plays into our hands defensively. Now, offensively, we got to figure out again. Hope you spend a bye week emphasizing the run game, because with receivers being out like Keenan Allen and Michael Williams, that you have to be able to run the ball. You have 3 capable running backs in the backfield. You have a decent O-line. I mean, we don't have Rashad Slater anymore for the season, but everybody else is still healthy. Dig deep, dig in, and run the ball. You know, I mean, again, if we run the ball, they run the ball. Probably be a short game. Might be 2.5 hours versus 3.5. But you know, you still come out with a better chance of winning the game if you limit their run, get our run game going, allow Justin to work the play action pass game, and ultimately get out of Atlanta with some type of W. So that's my synopsis on what they should do. It's very basic, but the alignment thing has been killing me. I've been person that played the game, coached the game, knows exactly what needs to be done. It's not being done. It drives me nuts. It's been a bane in my existence for quite some time to see that every time we get gashed on the run, we're not aligned properly, and I can't understand why. It's basic football principles. It's basic. They're in a jumbo set. Why the hell are we in the light box? That makes no sense. It makes no sense at all.
See, now we're talking about jumbos and light boxes. We had this issue last week too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we did.
Well, I mean, Cool Cav seems to be colorblind to a new level. I wear orange. Captain wears black. I've never known that to be an issue with most people, but clearly there's some color issues there. Cool Cav will help you out, and we'll put you in touch with some right people to figure the difference out. In addition to that,
America's Best has glasses on sale.
So price one.
There you go.
So, anywho, as we move on, their coach, I'm curious to see how you think you're going to do against the run, especially if the Falcons decide to go outside as opposed to inside.
Well, that's the thing. You know, you have to, like I said, just depending on what alignment we are, and I would say that you have to move Khalil Mack around because he's your best and most capable edge defender when it comes down to the running game with Joey Bosa not being there. So you have to move him around. You know, if nothing else, this is what I would do. It's just a basic schematic change. Wherever the wide side of the field is on, that's how Khalil's going to be on because you have way more space.
That's where Mariota's going to go.
So just leave him on the wide side of the field on the early rundowns, and that should ultimately limit the idea of them running big plays on the outside from a wide angle lens of wide side of the field perspective. So I would do that first and foremost, you know, and then again, you roll up your safeties and early downs. Again, I mean, are you really that deeply concerned about them beating us deep? I wouldn't. I mean, come on, they don't have. If Calvin really was still playing right now on their team, then I'd be concerned.
They got a burner though. They
don't have anybody ever that takes the top off.
So I mean, is the only one.
Right, and I think him step with him and Derwin, I'll take my chances. You know, so I think that I would just live with the idea that I want to stop the run first and foremost. If you get out of there with them beating you for Mariota throwing 50, you know, for 350 and 4 touchdowns, then hey, he just had a banner game. But you don't let them beat you run the ball. That's the point.
Thing you got to keep in mind, Atlanta's going to be doing this for takeoff.
Yeah, that's another thing.
R.I.P.
Yeah, R.I.P. Rest in power to that man. So I don't know. Again, it's a nail biting game for us because I really feel like that it's definitely going to come down to us, our ability to stop the run and how well we move the ball offensively, and us not having our possessions limited because they're constantly running the ball and running the clock. It's taking the time away from the game. So
I feel like they're not that effective at running the ball for as much as they're committed to it, though. You know.
But yet again, they catch you off guard and they run to specific areas of spots where you're misaligned. Then a block here, a block there, and then you spring them, then they off to the races.
Yeah. I'm just saying, because I'm looking at their stats, and it's kind of like Cordell Patterson's still the leading rusher.
Right. And he's been out, 4 weeks?
4
weeks, right.
Algier has, or Algier, however you say it.
Algier.
84.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has 84 carries, and he still has 22 yards less than Patterson.
See?
He's played 7 games. So, you know, I feel like as much as they commit to it, so I'm trying to go look because I know they beat the Browns. So I'm curious what that stat line was like.
Well, it's the Browns. I mean, you can't expect much.
Yeah, but all you need is to be able to stop the run from the other team to make them one-dimensional. And then if you get, you know, the key runs at key parts of the game.
Yeah.
Like, so for example, you know, you could suck at running the ball for, you know, 3 quarters. And if you basically have, you know, 4 run plays for 40 yards and a touchdown or 2. I mean,
they ran the ball 35 times against the Browns.
No, but that's what I'm saying, right? Like you don't
7
need
completions.
And
you
in
don't
a tight
need
game,
massive.
you don't.
You don't need the massive runs. You just need to wear the other team down. And as long as you can continue to do that, you have an opportunity to win games.
Yeah, but the reason I looked at the Browns is because like they do the same thing. So it's like the same team, but whereas the Chargers, at least at the start of the year, maybe not with their current makeup, but can certainly, are more of the explosive type of offense that can score quickly. And so to me, it's like if the Chargers can keep, because like you were saying, where they run at successful moments later on, but if the Chargers make it to where Mariota has to win, they can't run.
Right.
And then, it's a wrap.
If we manage to get up 10,
if they have Mike Williams or Keenan Allen, I'd say it's a no-brainer.
Oh, it'll be in the bag, I think. But I think the fact that we missing our top 2 receivers is a big problem. Yeah. And I would say that again, to the point of the running the ball, like I said, they can not have success running the ball for 3 quarters, but the game is close and you still have the opportunity to run the ball. Then if you happen to pop a runner here or there in the 4th quarter because people are tired of nothing else, then guess what? They're still gonna try it. They're still gonna keep trying their hand, obviously.
Exactly.
And run the ball. And all it takes is one run if the game is close, and that could change the trajectory of the game. So you got to look at
pop a run and get the game within 3, right? Or something like that, right? So I mean, the NFL is often a game won or lost by a field goal.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Right. And so as long as you get yourself and keep yourself within that,
keep you in striking distance.
I mean, exactly. That's all you need, right?
Game last week.
Yeah, right. Right.
I mean,
right.
Come on.
Yeah, your boy ripping his helmet off and costing him the game practically. So
that's crazy.
It was crazy.
And so that's all you need. So I actually, it's interesting because I think that the AFC West has suffered far more injuries than we were expecting this year.
Oh, I'm sure.
A lot. I mean,
and the Chargers have major acquisitions that have not produced or are now injured. The Broncos have had, their injured reserve list is pretty silly when you actually look at it. It's they have the
Browning's
highest
out too now.
Browning will be back after the bye.
Okay.
But nonetheless, the Broncos have, I think, the highest cap that's sitting on IR of any team in the NFL.
Wow.
I think.
That's ridiculous.
That's crazy.
So you have to look at just how depleted the AFC West teams are now as a result of injury, and just kind of look at what that looks like. The Chiefs, I think, are the healthiest of all the teams, or the Raiders, in terms of where things are at. But it's really crazy how the Broncos were looking like they were going to be better than they were. I think that the Broncos might start. We saw some flashes of what it could be last game against the Jags. The question will be whether or not the Broncos can build on that or whether or not they just regress. I think, similarly speaking, the Chargers have seen flashes. Can they build upon the positives and limit the negatives? I think will be a big thing for the Chargers. Mm-hmm. And the Raiders' big question mark is, can they adapt to fit the players that are on the roster in real time? And right now, McDaniels, coming from experience in the Broncos, he's a system guy. And he wants to run his system because he knows it works. And he's willing to wait until the personnel adapts to his system rather than the system adapt to the players. And frankly, I think that this year is a good example of where I think the Raiders are going to get a really high draft pick.
They should.
Start knocking off some top tier positions. So as the AFC West rivals, we should actually be somewhat concerned about that, because they already have an elite wide receiver who is just a few
31.
Yeah, like he's that good. He really is. And then as long as they get, maybe an upgrade at quarterback or an upgrade in the offensive line or a combination of some other players, the Raiders can be a very, very dangerous team. And the other thing that I think that the Raiders or the AFC West teams are not considering is, if the Raiders have another top or elite draft pick, they could go with a pass rusher on the outside. And that could be a game changer for them to pair on the outside linebacker spot to have Chandler Jones, a rookie who's maybe elite, and then a guy like I can't believe I'm gapping on his name now. The best player on the Raiders team, on the inside at the DN spot,
Crosby,
Yeah.
who will kill you, and so that could be a really big challenge for AFC West teams with Crosby on the inside and then two spectacular outside linebackers on the Raiders team. That could be a really big issue for us. Alex, obviously with the Broncos on our bye week, I wanted to throw over to you and get Coach's opinion on it. You guys are playing the Titans this week, and they're not necessarily showing out this season, but they still have some of their best players.
Yeah, they're still 5-2, man. I mean,
they're still doing well, so it's not like they're a slouch.
I mean, this is a pretty important game. I mean, both are 5-2. One's, I mean, there's, for chart the Titans are winning the AFC South. I mean, there's no team.
I mean, unless they just fall completely on their face, I don't see that not happening.
So, I
agree. And with the run game, with Henry starting to come into his own after his foot issue,
he's a limited participant today, though.
Pardon me?
He was limited participant in today's practice. So
but I think that's a team reserving their.
Oh, probably, but
basically their entire offense, kind of putting him on the sideline to get himself back to better, being better. So with that in mind, I'm going to throw over to Titans Tube here to give us their take on what they need to do to beat your Kansas City Chiefs.
Hey everybody, what's up? Thanks for having me back. Wild West podcast. It's good to be back with you guys. Appreciate y'all having me on again. We're back in the mix here at 5-2, going on the road to Arrowhead. So what's it going to take? What's it going to take for the Titans to get a win here? Well, the Titans are very, very good and dominant and elite in some parts of the roster, and in some parts they are among the worst in the NFL. But one of the most dominant aspects of this team is this defensive line. It is littered with studs across the board. They're good enough to take over and carry a game for us, honestly. They have been really coming into their own this season. Last week against Houston, if it wasn't for a interception by the offense, the Houston Texans would have been shut out through the first 59 minutes of the game and having less than 100 yards of offense. I mean, that was a completely dominant performance by our defense. So how good is this Chiefs pass protection? How good is this Chiefs O-line at keeping Patrick Mahomes upright? I think that is our best chance. The number one thing I'm watching for in this game. Number two, we're just going to have to keep playing into our identity and find production on the ground. I know I just mentioned the Chiefs, third in the NFL in rush defense and yards per game. Henry's coming off a 200-yard effort against the Texans, who are among the worst in the NFL in rush defense. But the team has kind of found their own. This offensive line had a lot of questions coming into the season. Still big questions in the pass protection department. But in run blocking for Henry, it's been working. We have been riding Derrick Henry, and he's churned out 100 yards in 4 straight games now. So it seems like the king is back after his broken foot midway last year. But we're going to have to somehow establish the run against this tough Chiefs front. I know they're missing Chiefs are missing Frank Clark for a suspension. So how big of an impact is that going to have on this Chiefs defense? That's something to watch for. But we're going to have to find some production because this passing offense is just atrocious. For example, Robert Woods is our leading receiver on the team, and he has about 250 some odd yards through the season. I looked at it last night. 250 yards. Robert Woods ranks 79th in the NFL in receiving yards. That is our leading receiver. So that kind of tells you the production we're getting from the pass game. And lastly, third key. It's kind of lazy, I guess. But this offense they can't make any mistakes. They've got to limit the penalties and no turnovers. We cannot give the Chiefs any chances to put points on the board. This offense has yet to score more than 24 points in a game. So, I mean, we fumbled a punt last week. Malik Willis threw an interception last week. Luckily, the defense rallied and was able to hold off the Texans, giving them only 3 points up until the final drive of the game. So the offense can't afford any mistakes. We can't give the ball on or give the Chiefs good field position, through turnovers or. I mean, if it's fourth down and short, I mean, I'm good with just, playing it safe, punting it, pinning the Chiefs deep, and making them work for every single point they have. Make them take long drives. Don't give them any freebies in the turnovers again. So completely clean game. Need that from the offense. And I mean, really from the defense too. But I mean, if the Titans are going to have a chance in this game, they have to play mistake-free football. Hopefully the Titans can pull through. And I think these 3 keys, if they can execute all of them, we got a shot. But good luck to the Chiefs fans, or good luck to the Chiefs and the fans out there. Hopefully we get a great game. And appreciate you guys. Love being on this channel here. So you guys take care.
So I do think this is going to be an interesting game. I think that there's going to be certain elements that the Titans are going to expose in the Chiefs. I think there's going to be other elements that the Chiefs are going to expose in the Titans. I do believe that the Chiefs will win this game. But Alex, wanted to throw over to you in terms of what your thoughts are in terms of how this Titans game is going to play out.
Yeah, honestly shocked you said that because I just figured you'd chalk this up as a Tennessee win, but
I'd love it if it was a Tennessee win. I'm being realistic.
Well, yeah, I'm sure, I think like I said, going into the 3-point stance, I mean, a crucial game for both sides. They're both 5-2.
Agreed.
But Tennessee, started the year playing Buffalo and. Who else they play? Buffalo and New York and Buffalo, and then haven't really played too many promising teams since then. So, it's been a while since they've played a team kind of in the top, more complete tier of the league. So, I think that's kind of skewed comparing the two at where they're at in terms of record. Obviously Tennessee's very good at running the ball. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows that it goes through Derrick Henry as it should. But you even heard him say, KC's been pretty successful, at least up to this point in the year, in stopping the run. This will probably be their biggest test with the team that is so dependent, especially with the Derrick Henry, who has been sort of hitting his stride more and more. But you've seen it almost every week since week 2 or 3. I mean, when these teams go heavy personnel, which a lot of them lately have been doing, the Chiefs have found it more difficult to stop the run and get off the field and get the offense back out there. I mean, you saw the Raiders do it.
That Derrick Henry's basically a defensive end running the ball.
Oh yeah, I mean he's an alien.
Refrigerator with legs.
Yeah.
Nobody that's 6'4" and 250 should run a 4.4.
Nobody. It should be humanly possible.
But he's basically like the same athleticism, I guess, as Clowney. like the same size as Clowney, but quicker, and it's just crazy.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
But like you saw the Raiders do it, you saw the Bills do it. I mean, obviously not as much because they can do more things. You saw the 49ers were pretty successful when they went heavy. But like I've been saying, I'm kind of like a broken record at this point. But KC at least is so efficient and quick on offense that they don't allow those teams to keep doing it, because eventually they get to a point where they can't do that. And I think you kind of see that here. there's really no reason to respect the Titans passing game, especially if Malik Willis has to play again. I mean, the dude had a 5 QBR last year or last week. That's
numbers were horrible.
That's impossible to do.
Right.
So especially if he's playing, you definitely see KC stack the hell out of the box and say, okay, Derrick Henry has to beat me and run through 8 guys every time he scores, or we're winning for sure. In Tennessee, they have a good defense. One of my boys actually plays linebacker for them, so shout out Dylan Cole, Springfield Zone.
All right.
So, kind of got to give him a little love there. D-line is certainly good. Jeffrey Simmons is a beast.
Monster.
The only plus is that Harold Landry didn't make it to the start of the year, else it'd be even that much better. But there's a reason they emphasize their D-line, and it's because their secondary is not that great outside of their safeties. And I think you see KC, especially as they've been sort of gelling better with the receivers. I think you see sort of a breakout game in that point, where you see these short, quick outs to set stuff up later. But I think they have a pretty good day in terms of airing the ball out. So really, I think it'll be competitive and close until I'd probably say it's consistent sort of game flow to how the Niners game went, where it'll be, competitive probably to halftime or into the third quarter, but then you'll see KC start to be able to pull away, and then you're going to force Tennessee to have to move the ball with Tannehill or Malik's arm. And Robert Woods is their leading receiver. He's the only receiver with over 150 yards, which is like, to put into perspective, McCole Hardman has more yards than Robert Woods with half the targets that he's gotten. So, they're not efficient at moving the ball through the air. And KC, for better or worse, has always started off slow and allowed teams to get an early lead where they play that run, but then the offense is just too good. It's like, too good as the game goes on to where teams can't do that anymore. I mean, if San Fran kept the foot on the gas and was able to get up 21-0, I think that's a totally different game, because they're allowed to do that stuff a little bit more, and the pressure's more on KC to score quick. But you kind of have KC where their defense has been a bend, don't break, certainly not look good to start games. I think I've tweeted the last 3 weeks, like, F this start, like, what the hell is happening, and then somehow they pull it off. But the defense has been good enough to sustain or kind of cap how successful teams are early on, that allows the offense to kind of pick up the pace through the game flow, and then next thing you know, they're forcing a Garoppolo or a Tannehill or someone to have to kind of go toe-to-toe with Mahomes and win with their arm, and there's not many people in the league that can do that. So
let me flip that script a little bit, though. So, Coach, I'm curious as to your take on this from the defensive perspective. So let's look at this from KC's starts to the game. So let's assume that KC starts off to the same fumbling and bumbling start we've seen.
They will.
Majority, which they probably will, right? Like,
it'll be 10
mess up, right? Yeah. So let's assume that they fall down, say 14-0 or 14-3 or something stupid like that, right? Now, what separates Tennessee, I think, from some of the other teams is most other teams don't have a 250-pound, 6'3" running back bulldozing guys over. They just don't.
But those teams also have viable receiving weapons that when the game goes,
hold on. Let me finish because let me finish because this is an important piece. Is you're correct. Other teams might have more viable running weapon or passing weapons, but if you're banking on another team saying, "Oh crap, we have to now throw the ball," Tennessee is looking at their wide receiver corps and saying, "Oh crap, I don't want to ever throw the ball." So to flip that script, so many other teams are going to say, "Well, we have wide receivers. We'll try to keep up with KC," and they fail epically. Tennessee may fall into a different trap, and I'm not saying it'll work. I'm just saying that it's different, I think, than what KC has faced so far this season, which is Derrick Henry is their best player, and it's not even close.
Yeah.
And
I mean, they've lost to Tennessee in the past.
I know. And that's my point, is that you have a 6'3", 250-pound, 260-pound running back. This guy's an animal. And so when other teams would go to the passing game to say we're going to catch Kansas City because they scored a touchdown, Tennessee's going to say, no, we're just going to grind you down and make you look like a fool. So then the question here is, on the defensive side of the ball, how long do you think that Kansas City can withstand punishment from a guy that large, hitting their linebackers and even some of their defensive ends if they start running more on the outside? And do you think that that can have a legitimate impact where, I mean, I'm not saying that I think Tennessee is going to blow you out, because I don't think that's true, but it could be something that you're not used to that can throw you off. Where they might just say, we're sticking with the running game come hell or high water. And that could be something that you're just not used to seeing, and they could win by 3.
Yeah. Well, KC's played Tennessee like every year since, I think, in the whole Mahomes regime. And honestly, you go look at the history, it's not good outside of the playoff game. But what I will say with those games is that system did work, but at the same time, KC's offense was not at the same pedigree and efficiency as they've been for the rest of the year almost, when you look at the past games through the scope of the rest of the schedule. I mean, regular season last year, it was something to 3. It was the worst game I've ever seen the Chiefs play with Mahomes at QB. 27-3. So I mean, that formula does work, and for I mean, recent history, Tennessee's somewhat been kind of the kryptonite, if you will, to how KC has looked at in terms of sort of their schedule as a whole. But I'd say that more falls on KC allowing Tennessee to stay into the game. I mean, that's their MO, is to run the ball, keep the game close. I don't think they've scored more than 24 points this year. But what I'm saying is that stuff will definitely be effective and certainly will keep the game interesting. But there's going to be a point where they're not going to be able to run the ball. And if everything goes according to plan with how KC has played opponents up to this year, there's going to be a point where they're not going to be able to do that, because the time in the game itself won't allow for that.
Right, which is what you get when you have a team that runs the ball, where they chew the time off the clock. And if they can get 4 yards a carry, rather, like 2-3 carries, and they've got that first down, or even 2 runs at 4 yards a carry. And then a quick pass is probably going to get them the 2 yards they need to make up the difference. And so, I mean, Coach, from a defensive perspective, I mean, I see the Tennessee Titans as a bit of a unicorn.
Yeah, I mean, they have one of a kind. They have a one of a kind running game. I mean, let's just put it plain. I mean, even the Browns have a two-headed monster. It's like a thunder lightning type thing with Chubb and Hunt. But having that big monstrosity of a man running the ball for the Titans is a whole different ball game. And again, you might be okay quarter 1, quarter 2, but come quarter 3, quarter 4, it gets a little different. I mean, to be playing. What the Titans have to do, and it's only really option you have, is to make the game ugly. You have to make the game ugly, win ugly, control the clock. Limit Mahomes' possessions. If he's going to play loose and play uncharacteristically inefficient early, take advantage of it. They've got to be up and be in the halftime with at least a 2-score lead, and be able to come out and use the same script, come out in the second half and do the same thing. Just keep Mahomes, holding the clipboard, basically, holding the Surface tablet, doing whatever, anything but holding the football. He need to be doing anything but holding the football for most of the game. So that's the only thing they can do to make the game lean in their favor, in all honesty. Because, like I said, you might be stout against them in quarter 1 and quarter 2, but if the longer you play defense against that man, and the more likely you're going to wear down, and more likely he's going to get 4, 5, 6, 7 yards going to turn into 10 and 12 and touchdown
or more.
Yeah. Right.
Or
So
more.
touchdowns, right? Hit your head on the goalpost, that kind of thing. So that's really the only thing they can do. They would be dangerous if they had some type of semblance of passing game. Like if they had that year where they had AJ and Julio, and if they both had to stay healthy and Tannehill was actually throwing the ball decent, that would lead to the idea.
The year before that,
if you had a semblance of a passing game, they really would be dangerous. So, but I think that's the only issue. They fact that the Kansas City knows for sure that their running game is all they got. And if again, that goes back to the whole schematics of football. If they come out and put up 14 points on them, KC, and I'm talking about, if KC puts up 14 points, the running game goes away. You're not gonna run yourself back into the game by being down 14.
I mean, the Bills got up super quick, and then didn't see them run the ball. And it was,
and they do that all the time. They give up the run when they don't have to. That's what annoys me about them.
Exactly. But this is what my point is that Tennessee is not the Bills. The Bills look at Josh Allen and see a guy.
No, I'm talking about the Bills Tennessee game.
Oh, no, I get it. But my point is that Tennessee only has their running game. They know all they have is their running game. So you're not talking about the same type of team as the other teams that you would potentially go against. So they're going to look at Derrick Henry and say, even if he's only getting 3 or 3.5 yards a carry, at some point you're going to be tired and not wanting to tackle a dude that big, because you're going to get sore and they're just banking on that. So I could totally and Vrabel's that old school style football coach, right? Like the one that comes from that old school mindset,
old school
of saying,
man. Yeah,
I'm gonna run you over and you're gonna feel it by the end of the game. Bring it.
They're gonna play a physical football game. That's paramount. It's gonna be physical. So if the Chiefs aren't ready for a physical football game coming off a bye week, then it could get ugly. In all honesty, but it's just a matter of who imposed their will earlier. Like you said, if you let the Chiefs score early in the game, you can put the Titans to bed. Let's just put it plain. Put the Titans to bed. But if the Titans get up early and they can literally get whatever they want in the run game, then the Chiefs are in for a rude awakening. But it really comes down to how
they have been in the past.
The
past matchups with the Titans, they haven't been able to get up early, and they've allowed Tennessee to play their game.
And that goes back to our point earlier, right? That goes back to our point earlier about leaving teams around. Like let them hang around, and they'll end up beating you at the end.
Yeah. To answer your question, DZ, I think they bring both of those guys back. I think the guy they don't bring back is MVS.
Okay.
But I think that's also going to be dependent on how Tony works out. But I really think they brought him on, and they're going to have him return punts because the Sky Moore experiment has not been good. And for whatever reason, they don't want McColl to do it, which I get. But if I'm KC, I'm signing Juju back right now. Dude's just been progressing, and he's still relatively young. And the MVS deal was 3 years, but they can get out after this. So I think that's going to be the one you see they move on from. But again, kind of dependent on how the new guy they brought in molds with everyone else. If he does, KC's pretty notorious for bringing on offensive weapons and then just not using them. So, look at Ronald Jones, who they signed in the offseason and has been a healthy scratch every week.
That's a good point. We haven't seen him.
He literally, after they made the trade, he tweeted like, sure would like a release right about now. And then they're like, we're not releasing him. We like him and hope that he can find – like, it's just weird. Then they do it with running backs. The same thing like they got Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, that was weird
didn't use him at all.
He had like one good game, I feel like, and that was it.
Yeah. So
he had one good game because they actually needed to use him.
Right.
Yeah.
And then he showed the Chiefs that there's a reason why you should have brought me in and used me more. And then Andy Reid said, "Oh, running the ball, I'm allergic to that."
Yeah.
So, anyways, guys, this has been a spectacular show. I have really enjoyed it. I hope you all have too. I'd like to thank all of the 4 gentlemen for joining me tonight for the Wild Wild West podcast. Coach had his show with Coach Kurt on Tuesday. That was yesterday. If you missed it, go ahead and check that on Locked On Defense podcast. We have a dog appearance here. My dog is Kurt.
Good boy. A good boy. Let the dogs out. Who let the dogs out?
Who got the dogs?
There's a song about that
release
somewhere.
The dogs.
These are my coworkers.
Oh, release the hounds. That's what it. Release the hounds.
Yeah.
Oh, you got 2 of them. Okay.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
So we've had a great show tonight. We've gone right into all the nuances of what to expect in the upcoming weeks and this coming week coming up. We also went into the trades, or in the Chiefs case, in the Chargers case rather, the lack thereof.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, Coach. I'm shocked. I just don't know what to say. But anywho, as we move forward and see how the rest of this NFL season plays out, we will be with you here every step of the way here on the Wild Wild West podcast as we break down the AFC West on a week-to-week basis and into the off season as we get there. I figured I may as well bring
Where the dog,
my dog, here into the podcast. Well,
get the dogs out.
That right.
Mine just forced his way on. So
Pretty much. Yeah. I'm tired of you talking. Pay me some attention.
I'll have I do a bunch of Zoom depots, like in the.
Did we lose them?
I think we did. I think they just got scared of the Titans coming up and decided to back out.
Yep.
But ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Wild Wild West podcast for this Wednesday, November the 2nd. Remember, the West Side is the best side. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below in the chat below the video, and we will do our very best to answer them. Until next Wednesday, peace.